Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be getting hyped for Andor Season 2 with a brand new behind-the-scenes featurette. And we'll be examining the major panels for Star Wars Celebration Japan. All this and much more, including more hashtag Ask the SWU. So leave your super chats for us right now, and we will respond to them later in the show. My name is Chris, and joining me, it is, I guess, this week, my favorite co-host, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
I'm so honored. I'm so honored. I want to thank my family. I want to thank... No, okay.
I don't have to play you out.
Oh, wow.
Don't you dare play that music! Don't you dare! I have things to say.
Such a good deep cut.
Oh boy. Yes. Okay. Yeah. This made my day. Okay. So I have an announcement to make. It's a follow up from something a couple weeks back that we discussed. I watched Alien.
Oh.
Okay.
What did you think?
That's my announcement. I know it's not very exciting. But look, it's a big deal for me, okay?
Yes.
And it was good. It was good, and it was
good.
Scary. So
good. That's definitely how I would describe one of the best science fiction movies ever made. Good.
Okay, yeah, I guess all that too. I guess I didn't say it was bad. When did I say it was bad?
I mean. You know, Home on the Range is good. Chicken Run is good.
Excuse me, Chicken Run is excellent. What are you saying now? Question that.
Are you saying it's excellent?
That is absolutely what I should be saying.
That is fair. I'll give you that. Love them, those chickens. All right, well, awesome. That other voice you hear, that other face you see, I thought I said it backwards, but I didn't. Yes, it is Hannah, all the way from the Raeside, which is the other side.
G'day there. Great to be back for another week. I'm using a virtual background today, and it's my old setup of my room that doesn't look like this anymore. And I'm like, why did I ever change this? This looks incredible. Like, I should have... What the hell, man? This looks like a great background.
I'm so glad that you acknowledged this, because, you see, I noticed this, and I wanted to, like, make fun of it, but then I'm like, that's kind of like making fun of someone for, like, wearing a toupee, and I don't know if, like, you know, they're like, you know.
Oh, my God.
Like,
what, do you think my background looks better than my current background? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, no. I wanted to just mention the fact that, you know, you were using a virtual background of your old setup. I'm like, wow, that's really funny, but also,
like,
should this be acknowledged publicly that this is happening? Or are you trying
I feel
to pass this off?
I should have maybe seen if anyone noticed. I should have done that.
I did notice it. It was very obvious, and it was very hilarious that you're putting yourself back in your own room with virtual.
I feel like I'm at home now. Yeah, that's nice. It's nice. But yes, ready for the week's discussion.
It's really funny. Awesome. So we'll get to all that fun discussion real quick. But first, we want to remind everybody to subscribe to whatever you're watching or listening to this on. You can also become a channel member if you're watching on YouTube. And check out our Discord. We got lots of fun game nights and we have also watch parties over there. Ben, what is? I know something is happening tomorrow, but I forgot what it was. So I'm relying on you.
So good old fashioned game night, I think, is what the doctor had ordered. And who knows? We used to kind of like say what the game was. Now we're just like, yeah, whatever we're feeling, we'll just do that. So it's sometimes it's Fortnite, sometimes it's Star Wars Hunters, which is a lot of fun. Sometimes it's Fall Guys. You never know. And if you show up, you get a chance to actually like vote on what game we're gonna play.
Oh, cool.
So you have a chance to guide us in the right direction.
Awesome. Call me when you're playing Pong. I'll play Pong with y'all. It's a good game.
I mean, you never know. You never know.
Very, very cool. So check that out on the SWU Network Discord. Link is in the description. Make sure you follow us on social media as well at the SWU. Check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside, Iron Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more. All right, let's get right to the news, Ben.
Yeah, so a good bit happened. Andor happened. More Andor happened. And so the interesting thing about this is you would have thought that after last week's massive trailer, Lucasfilm would have been like, yeah, they've got enough to chew on for a few weeks. No big deal. But no, apparently, just randomly on Tuesday night, I think is when this happened, we got a brand new, they call it a special look. And I don't know actually what the rollout on this thing was, because there was no announcement. There was no nothing. But there was, I literally am just scrolling through Disney Plus. Accidentally, I see Andor Season 2 special look. I'm like, wait, what? What is this? What's happening? And it wasn't until like a few hours later that it was actually posted to the YouTube. And I want to believe maybe the timing was off, because some of them were country locked. I think it was on Disney Plus. You couldn't actually, if you were like outside of North America or some of the big countries, you couldn't see it. But then they posted to YouTube. I think they posted to YouTube probably because they it was getting posted to like Twitter and Threads and Blue Sky by other people, like our buddy Rick Villanueva just like posted it in several parts of Blue Sky, because you can only do 1 minute videos on Blue Sky, and this thing's like 2.5 minutes. So it was several parts. Rick doing the Lord's work out there, posting it for the people who were complaining that it could not be watched on Disney Plus. And then we also got a brand new season 2 a poster, which they continue this with the Andor, a Star Wars story branding they keep putting on this, which is really interesting, and just a beautiful poster, just in and of itself. Very reminiscent of Rogue One. You get a little bit of Yavin 4 back there. You get the Death Star looming in the background. Really cool stuff. Obviously, there's a lot in this. But Chris, I'll throw it to you first. What was your initial reaction to seeing this little teaser? Was there anything stood out to you?
It's interesting that in the world now where we have trailers for trailers, it's like surprising that they don't make an announcement about like a behind the scenes trailer that's 2 minutes coming out. Like, it's surprising that people find it surprising that that's the case. Is the best way for me to say it, because it's like, for me, it's just like a 2 minute thing. Just like, why is everybody freaking out? Like, it's just a 2 minute thing. So that's kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, this kind of strikes me as, your typical, version. I feel like a lot of Star Wars shows and Disney Plus shows and a lot of marketing now uses this behind the scenes trailer type style. I mean, they used it for The Force Awakens, back to the old ways of doing things. It was like, it's the same format as that really old Force Awakens trailer from like end of 2014, beginning of 2015. So really cool. I would say that I'm just still nervous about the pace of the show being too fast. Like, the more that they keep repeating this covers 4 years, and the scope is so big, the more I keep getting nervous, because one of the things that's so great about Andor is the pacing is so slow, but it's not boring slow, because the suspension and the tension, the suspense and the tension is so good. Like I never was bothered by the 27-minute one-take scene of the cereal chewing. I was never bothered by that because there was so much tension as he brought every bite up to his lips. It was just amazing. I was so cool. Time stopped. And I just like that. And so the more that they show from this, and the more they talk about how the scope is so big, and they talk about how it's going to be, 4 years of time, and it's going to bring us all the way from Andor season 1 to Rogue One, the more I get worried. Are they going to be able to pull off the editing? Or is it going to feel like everything's just so fast? Is the show going to have room to breathe? Is it going to have those small moments, those little quiet character building, tension building moments? Or is it just going to be bang, 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 bang action and just leave us like, whoa, we don't know how to process this? I'm worried about that because of the way that the marketing's been. So that's kind of my reaction to it, is just, I'm just like, I don't want my baby to grow up. I like the tracks. I don't know if I need the Juggernaut. I just like walking along the tracks, like Stand By Me and Stranger Things with my feet. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I get it. And Hannah, I want to get your thoughts on the trailer just a second, or teaser, behind the scenes featurette, sizzle reel, whatever we're calling this, special look. But I do not think we've had Chris's thoughts on what happened last week in regards to the big big schedule shakeup. We had let's just say a heated debate about the fact the show will be releasing 3 episodes at a time for 4 weeks instead of,
because I'm like super for this. I'm super excited about it.
Wait,
I know.
Ben, you're asking to get dogpiled? Because you knew my
I'm trying to
thoughts on this. I said it somewhere in a chat somewhere. I remember.
Well, the people haven't heard it, so why don't you just get out with it and see which side you land on?
Okay, listen. I feel like the first 3 episodes of Andor, when I watched the first episode of this show, I was like, I'm a little worried about this. Like, they haven't really shown a lot. Like, the first scene was cool when he was like in the city and he had to kind of get out of it. But like the rest of it's like, I don't really know. I don't know how I feel about this. And then I watched the second episode, which of course I'm watching these back to back to back. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But wow, that felt really kind of just middle, like no real conclusion, no build up, no build up to anything, no anticlimactic. This is weird. Is the whole show going to be like this? I don't like this. And then I watched the third episode, and then I was like, oh, I just watched 1 episode in 3 parts of the commercial break between them. That makes so much more sense. This is great. I love this. This whole 1 episode that was episodes 1, 2, and 3, that's just one story that just cuts that weird spot sitting in the middle of it, was a great episode and a great introduction to the show. And my immediate thoughts after seeing that premiere of season 1 was that, thank goodness that whatever they had originally announced about how many episodes they were going to show the first night, thank goodness they went with the first 3, because I can't imagine what the reaction would have been online and in the world and word of mouth if they had just shown the first episode or just shown the second episode in the first week. I feel like the show would have had a lot of negative buzz to start. People would have been like, it's too slow, I don't get it, it's not Star Wars enough, there's not enough action. And then it would have maybe even tanked the popularity of the show for a bit. But because they showed the first 3 and there was a great climax and a great payoff in the 3rd episode to that initial story, the reaction was great. Everybody except this person, Hannah, over here, was like, this is awesome, I love it. And that was, we can't get them all. Literally. That was great. 99.999 on Rotten Tomatoes was great. And so because of that, my assumption, and I don't until I see anything different, I'm going to assume this is that it's the same type of decision, because each section of the show is a different year. It's probably its own little story. There's probably no really beginning or middle or end to each of the individual episodes. It's probably just one long episode that takes place, 4 years before, 3 years before, 2 years before, etc. And so if we go in and just watch one of those pieces at a time, it'll feel like going to sit down like an hour program on TV, watching the first 20 minutes, getting to a commercial break, and then, you have to wait another week until you get the next 20 minutes of the episode. It would feel so weird. So that's my assumption. The assumption is they're doing this because the way the show is cut, these episodes aren't actually episodes. They are just chunks of a bigger episode that's basically like a mini movie of each year of Andor's life. And I that's why I think they're doing it. That's why I'm assuming they're doing it. And if that's the case, they should be doing it. And until it airs and that's not the case, I'm just going to say this is a good idea. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would go to as far as saying that I would have loved to see them actually go, hey, this is really sort of we're telling these insular stories year by year. Let's just make an hour and a half, one episode. And it's like a 4-episode special. I think Dom was the one to reference the UK Sherlock Holmes series with Benedict Cumberbatch. Like that I think every season of that had only 3 episodes, but they were all like hours, an hour long. So more than an hour plus. So Andor could have done that same thing. I kind of would have loved them to just go extra risky and do that, but I think this is good enough, having these in sections. But to your point there, Chris, of before you were saying is it going to feel too rushed? Is it going to affect the pacing of the actual show? That does run its risk. I do think, and that comes down to, they always said they only want to do 2 seasons and they don't want to work on this forever. Like everyone's pointed out, they've been working on Cassie and Andor for 10 years now. And they kind of just want to move on. So it's kind of sad in that sense, but I kind of get it as well. But yeah, I'm so excited for the release schedule. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. I know it. Oh,
I see how it is. Yeah, no big deal. I understand.
You asked for
it. Totally.
Unreal. Do you want me to
get it? No big deal. No big deal whatsoever. No, it's interesting. It's interesting. I will not concede any point at this point. But I will say, that I am right in the middle of a season 1 Andor rewatch right now, that I've really been enjoying. And the episodes, I think, because Andor season 1 took some getting used to, especially those first 3 episodes. But I think they did right at the end of the line, right before they released. I think they decided to, because I think the first 3 episodes were released together, right?
They were.
So I think that was a good decision. I think that was a good thing, because the first 2 episodes are slow. They're slow burn episodes. And that's not a criticism. That's an observation of how they were paced and how they were done. It's not things, because they're great episodes. I think they all play well together. I think there is merit in the idea of, okay, let's just release them all. I'm just selfishly going I could have had, at least 10 or 11 weeks of Star Wars things. And now I'm going to have, and also I have to frickin', as a Star Wars content creator, I have to somehow find the time to watch this stuff. I want to watch it more than once, and also take notes, and also find connections for you crazy people, and then somehow do it in 36 hours or 48 hours. It's kind of crazy. So time. I want more time with my Star Wars, okay? I'm selfish like that, okay? I'm sorry. But that is neither here nor there. Enough of this. Hannah, what was your thoughts? What was your big standouts from this
special look?
New little special look?
Yeah, this was better than the trailer. This was incredible. Absolutely.
I don't disagree.
Stunning. Yeah, it was just great shots. There's so many things that stood out to me, but one of the main things is, I love the kind of just voice bites they had of Genevieve O'Reilly, Mon Mothma, talking about, the sets and the production and how big scale this is. And you can tell that just from the cuts of where, all the different destinations they are. Absolutely. And you can just see there was one sort of, I think it might have been on a Coruscant type planet. It was kind of this big round area. And because I did this the kind of breakdown of it. And there was this, just very distinctly this one kind of building, but it was a set. It was like a full set. I think it was around an actual building as well, that you can see all the cameras set up in it. And I was like, they could have done that in the volume. They could have just, especially a circular building, they could have just gone to the volume and filmed that, but they didn't. They're in real life. They're in big spaces. You get some other shots of, Mon and all that, walking through these big expanses. But a lot of it is looking like real destinations, real places, just added, with some green screen, some effects, which I just think add to the absolute production quality to Andor. And I think that's just what struck me in the special look. And that's what just has me so excited. It just looks so expansive. But yeah, there's a lot of great little things that pop up in here that just look fantastic. B2 looking adorable. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of B2, I mean, that was one of the things. I will agree with you. This is, in a lot of ways, way better than the trailer. Like, the trailer was fine, but this was you're getting everything. You're getting a bunch of new footage. You're getting behind the scenes stuff, and you're getting interviews with, you got Tony Gilroy, Genevieve O'Reilly, Diego Luna. All of them were kind of in there talking about it. And then the best part is, I know everyone was wondering, where is B2 Emo? Is he safe? Is he all right after the first trailer? And here he is, finally. We get to see confirmation that B2 lives, and he's on the farm. Maybe this is Dantooine. I'm sticking with that theory. He's on the farm with the good old Obrasso, who's also in this trailer a lot. So good to see B2 Emo back officially.
Very nice, very nice. Maybe there will be a Star Wars version of a My Chemical Romance song in this show. That would be great. Love the emos. Love them.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And aside from my worries about just them packing too much, and here's the thing. What's funny, Ben, is your opinion about the amount of weeks that this show is going to take to air is my opinion about the amount of years it's going to take to air. I still completely, I'm fine with it happening in just a few weeks. I'm still not fine with us only getting one more season and it being done. It annoys me because it's such a good show, and for such a good show to only have 2 seasons, really, really bothers me. I wish that they had at least 3 or 4 seasons, at least. It is very annoying to me, and I don't know if I'll ever get over that. We'll see. Because it's a no win, right? Because if I don't like season 2, I'll be like, well, it should have been more than 1 season, and maybe it would have been better. And then if I do like it, I'm going to be mad that we're not getting another season. So I'm going to be mad either way. If it's really good or really bad, I'm going to be mad about that. That's my gripe about it, is the fact that they're just sticking it all into 1 season when, each of these sets of episodes could easily be a whole season inside themselves. But back to the earlier point too about the British shows like Sherlock. I mean, the first season of this show felt a lot of Star Wars obviously feels very British because there's so many, so many British creators that work on Star Wars, and a lot of it's shot in Britain. But of all the Star Wars things, Andor feels the most British to me, and I always wonder if that has to do with the fact that it was filmed during the pandemic, and a lot of Americans just physically couldn't work on the show because they couldn't fly over to Britain to help with
That's
it.
true.
And so I
think
think
about that.
Yeah, I've always wondered if, they just has even more of a British influence because of that quarantine that happened between, all the countries at that time. So it makes me wonder, if again, that added British influence might have, informed that decision to have these kind of Minnesota-like, Sherlockian like pacing to how the season is rolled out. But yeah, I love that the show is, the sets are expansive. I love that it's all very real. Like the volume is great because it lets them do things that they couldn't do on their budget, and it makes the shows feel bigger than they would if they didn't have it. So I'm not dissing the volume, but if you can afford to go real because it just is. It looks a little bit better. It looks a little bit more. There's a little bit more depth to it than the volume can create, and I think it's just even more fun for the actors. And you can tell, like, it's just, yes, some actors are really amazing at being in a green screen and being completely convincing, but I just feel that there's just that always added element of immersion to the craft when you're actually on an actual set that your scene is taking place on. So I think it's really cool that the actors are giving positive feedback to set builders about how massive their sets are and how immersive it feels to be in them and how cool it is to be immersed in that, transported to another galaxy. It's their own personal galaxy's edge. It's so cool. So yeah, that's really cool too, and that makes me very excited to see the show because I love scale. I love scope. It's very important to me when something feels like it doesn't have a scale to it. It feels very, very cheap to me, and I love being immersed in something that just feels so much bigger than the little part that you're seeing of it. Really awesome.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why Andor is up there on so many people's lists, is up there as one of my favorite shows of all time, is because of it feels the most cinematic out of all the shows. It's just the production value is out of this world. And I'm not using that as a dig. I know a lot of people love to do that. I'm not using that as a dig to other Star Wars shows. Even though there has been that. There has been other shows that haven't been quite. I'm not expecting every single one to be as good as Andor. I wish they were, but they're not. But I think that's what puts Andor, not just the writing, not just the acting, not just the storytelling, but the production value. But I want to get back to something really quick, if I may, present to you I don't know what I want to call this, but it's something that's stuck in my brain because a lot of people have been bringing this up. And yes, I too am very disappointed that we're not going to get 10 seasons of this or even 5 seasons of this. But you have to think about other series such as, anybody remember Firefly? That show from way back in the day. That show everybody remembers as being one of the best sci-fi series of all time, probably. And it only ran for 1 season. Actually, I think even a half a season. It was 14 episodes. And everyone remembers it being every episode is a banger. Every episode is magnificent. It's so good. If you haven't seen Firefly, go watch it. I think it's free. It was free on Facebook for forever. You could watch it. But it's an old show. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's a travesty that Fox canceled it. It's a travesty that we didn't get 10 seasons of Firefly. But my point from the beginning with that show has always been Firefly never got a chance to be bad. It got 14 chances to put out episodes, and that was it. And it just did. And they were all happened to be great episodes. If Firefly had, say, 10 seasons, we would be sitting here now going well, Firefly, for the first couple of seasons, it was great, but then season 3 really drops off, and then season 4 kind of picks back up, and it would have just been a mixed bag, and it wouldn't be remembered as this just pinnacle of sci-fi. And then you have other shows that did go so long. How many people would have loved to have not seen that last season of Game of Thrones, huh? There's a lot of shows that crap the bed halfway through or towards the end. And I think the thing is to be, I guess, as they say, thankful that it happened. And, and ultimately that we got 2, hopefully great seasons out of it versus 5, maybe so-so seasons, which is what might have happened. So that's how I'm choosing to view it. That's how I'm choosing to possibly view it.
Okay. What you said I'm glad that it works in your head.
Triggered.
I'm glad
Triggered.
that it works as a rationalization. But also in my brain, when I hear that, it does the exact opposite to me. It makes me feel worse. And
God.
the reasons why are, first of all, the shows that have issues with subsequent seasons, that start having issues after like 3 or 4 or 5 seasons, are the shows that are written to be 1 or 2 season shows, get way more popular than the creators thought they would be, and then the network goes back to them and says, we want to make more of this, write more, and the creators are like, I guess we have some overarching plot, but we really finished, our characters are developed, we finished the hero's journey, what do we do? And then they write stuff that's subpar because you can't lightning doesn't get caught in the bottle striking twice, metaphor being mixed, whatever that is. It doesn't happen. It's hard to write something so good twice, in the same way. And so that's the issue with those things. If a show, if someone has designed a show to go a specific amount of seasons and they have a specific storyline and they have it plotted out correctly, the show can go whatever amount of seasons it's supposed to go. Now, I will quickly say, just very quickly, I thought that the ending of Game of Thrones was good. I had no problem with it.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I think everybody's losing their marbles for no reason over that. I don't know why. I think they had an idea in their head of what it was going to be, and it was wrong. And I thought it was okay. I thought it was paced okay. I didn't have a problem with it. I just had a problem with the episode I couldn't see because it was all filmed in pitch black. I don't know why they made that creative choice. But other than that, the writing was fine. But since you mentioned that. But then like shows that are plotted out correctly, like Breaking Bad, for example, which I think is 6 seasons, one of the best shows of all time, would not be the case, would be a huge disappointment if that show was only 2 or 3 or 4 seasons. Maybe even a disappointment as well if they took seasons 2 through 6 of Breaking Bad and all put it into season 2 and did this. I don't know if it would have been as good as it was because that 6 seasons was balanced really, really, really well. Now, when it comes to Firefly had an overarching story. Like, it was going to be a several season show, and they had plotted it out that way. And it was clear because they had the storyline barely progressed in the first season. It was all about the 2x2 hands of blue, what's going on with, and with River, I think was her name, like, what's going on. Right. And, like, it was such an issue that they didn't finish the main storyline that they had to then go and make a movie called Serenity, and they had to tell the rest of the story in one movie, and it didn't work because it was too fast-paced and they didn't develop the story further enough because they had a storyline written for probably 5 or more seasons. They had to take the whole conclusion of that story and put it into Serenity, and they made a movie that was clearly definitely not as good as the TV show because it was not designed, a storyline was not designed to be told in a movie that quickly. It was too complicated for that. It needed slow development and tension building over time, which was happening in the first season. So it's not that, they just had an idea for a show and they had so many episodes, 14, and then they told it, and then they might have had an opportunity to tell more, but they didn't know what they were going to do, so we don't know what quality would have gotten get. So they basically got the stop while you're ahead, phrasing, and basically just became, remained popular because it stopped before they had a chance to get bad. It's more like they had a really fantastic idea. It certainly would have continued to be good, but they stopped it too early. And what resulted was actually not in 14 great episodes that people remember as amazing with a positive memory for the show, but actually a disappointing failed franchise because it's a show in a movie and the movie's not good. And the show never concluded the storyline. And it's actually a bad show because you only get those 14 episodes and nothing even happens in them. And so all of those reasons in my head when you say it make me scared for Andor because it's like, oh man, are you saying the same thing that kept Firefly from being the next Star Wars, which it should have been and could have been? It should be Star Wars, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Firefly. Those should be like the 4 top franchises. Firefly is way down here. It's more in like the Stargate level of popularity because of the fact that it didn't have that chance. So now I'm worried that Star Wars is basically going to get kneecapped by the same thing with Andor, and now I'm even more worried. Now,
Oh God! So my attempt at therapy
Gone into a complete
failed.
spiral.
You know what
your
I think?
therapy is my trauma.
I think Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Tony Gilroy. I really think they should take a page out of Firefly's book. I think after Andor's done, after it's done its 2 seasons, they should do a movie. They should do a sequel movie. They should do a sequel movie because I don't think they can. I don't think they can wrap Cassian's story up. So I think they should be about Cassian getting the Death Star plans. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry.
They did make that. Thank goodness they made the movie first. Thank goodness Rogue One is a movie.
They did a Firefly in reverse, and it was good. Okay, it was good. Okay, let's take solace in the fact we've seen the sequel, and it's good. Let's just sit on that for a second.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that was a hell of a tangent.
Yeah.
You said
So,
you
trailer.
triggered me so hard with what you said. The Game of Thrones last season sucked. Firefly was good that it got canceled. You basically told. Okay. Continue.
Oh, you mean a movie, a sequel movie where the Alan Tudyk character dies? Oh, that? Okay.
Of course.
By the way, we got this great image of Alan Tudyk and Diego Luna in a U-wing behind the scenes, which seemingly further confirms that Alan Tudyk is actually in this season as K2SO, which is pretty darn cool.
Awesome.
Such a great shot. They look just so like best friends there. It's so cute. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean, it's like we're talking about. It's almost been 10 years since they. I mean, I guess it has been. Maybe not at the time that they shot this, but now it has been 10 years since they shot Rogue One.
Wow.
Like it's crazy.
Amazing.
And the fact that it's come full circle and they, get to tell things. And there's another great shot in the trailer of K2. We're assuming it's K2 just barreling through a Imperial officer, just throws him off a bridge. And it's just like, okay, yeah. I know there's other KX droids in this show, but that feels like a K2 move. And we also do get a bunch of KX droids just sitting around in this little thing. And Cyril is looking over them. I don't know what's going on here, but they have the yellow on their thing. I think they all have it, which is kind of the identifier for K2 to tell him other parts. So I'm assuming maybe one of these is K2. Maybe he's a special one, and maybe all these get wiped out except for one. Maybe this is, I don't know. I'm curious when K2 is going to show up in the story.
Because Cyril looks like he's in still a corporate job. He's got his Star Wars suit and tie on, going to corporate croissant every day.
Prim and proper.
So yeah, I wonder if he's maybe assigned something to. Well, it's more military based. I don't know. He's got to be assigned something to be like, hey, can you go? I don't know. Confirm that these K2 droids are like ready to go or something. But yeah, on my show yesterday, me and my buddy, we took bets on which K2 is gonna be the K2 that we know. And it's like, okay, my bet is the furthest one on the right. So the one on the right that's closest to Cyril, I think is gonna be the K2. If everyone wants to put their bets on which K2 is gonna be the K2.
My bet is that there's no way to tell from this shot which one ends up being it.
That's the fun of it. That's the fun. That's the fun. You guess.
I'll take the one in the middle on the left. That's my bet.
Do you know how gambling works? You don't know. Yes, perfect. One on the left.
You have to take a chance.
That the house is gonna win, so I'm gonna win.
Jeez, man, brother.
Maybe I overrated this,
It's funny you mention Cyril's nice suit and tie, because he looks like he's wearing the same costume in all the shots, and he appears to be on this planet, which keeps showing up in the show, in these trailers
I
and
love
stuff like
shot.
that. And there is a shot in this trailer where somebody got the subtitles, and some of the people that are protesting in the square are supposedly are yelling in gore, as in Gorman, as in Gorman Massacre. So it appears that this is the planet Gorman, and there's a lot of shots here. Something big happens here. There's obviously probably a lot of people die, and the Empire does some really bad stuff. And there's even some shots in there where there's explosions and bodies and a lot of gnarly stuff. And the Empire obviously does something very bad in this, but also it looks like Cyril's on this planet. Looks like maybe Mon Mothma's on this planet. Cassian's here. Maybe some K2 droids are here. My only question is, like, where does this happen? Is this like middle of the season? Is this like Aldhani? Is this One Way Out, or is this the finale? I'm wondering, because this is supposed to be, I think maybe it will be second to last, because as the story goes, Gorman Massacre happens, Mon Mothma goes to the Senate, which is another thing that we see here. We see the Imperial Senate, and there's a bunch of pods out there. There's something going on. There's something happening. I don't know if a good old Sheev is in the podium there. There's a lot of senators, and they're mad. And as the story goes, Mon Mothma makes a big speech and then escapes Coruscant to get picked up by the Ghost Crew. And I don't think we're going to see that, but we're going to see the lead up to that probably. And I think that's a year or so before A New Hope, I think, if I remember correctly.
Crazy. With that Senate shot, one of my crackpot theories is, like, there's a figure in that center pulpit where the Chancellor would go. There's definitely a figure. I think.
Would they get Masameda?
But if it was Masameda, I feel like we would see the horns a bit clearer or something. Like the shape, we would see the blue a bit more clearer. Like, to be fair, it is very pixelated.
Sly Moore.
Well,
Sly Moore,
and it's funny, you say that, because, as I said, watching Andor second time around again, Sly Moore gets a mention in season 1. Mon Mothma looks at the guest list for her party. She's like, "Oh, Sly Moore is coming. These people hate me," and she's
oh my gosh,
good old spat with Perrin.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about the one thing I didn't like about that show. They didn't show that dinner party.
They skipped the dinner party.
That is
the worst thing about season 1.
I was so mad they didn't show that. I'm like, this is what I'm living for. A bunch of Star Wars politicians, just talking. Yes. Gosh, dang it.
So maybe they'll finally. I feel like somebody's got to be there. It did feel weird in season 1, seeing the Senate and seeing, like, senators there, and just like, who are they talking to? Are they talking to each other? Palpatine's not going to show up because, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to rule anything out, guys, but will we see, like, I don't think we'll see the dissolution of the Senate, because that happens during A New Hope. But I think, like, the lead up to that, would they get Ian McDiarmid back to play Palpatine in this show? They've done weirder. He showed up for Obi-Wan. Woody,
and I think he like, if they've been doing a lot of filming in not LA, in UK, and assuming Ian lives there, like lives in London, like, surely they would have been like, "Hey, we'll give you some pocket money for the week if you just come down to what are the studios called that they do it at? Thinger Studios, to come and film."
Yeah,
Pinewood.
Yeah, sure, Pinewood. Yeah. Like, surely. I think that, like, especially if it's just one scene where he's just like, "It doesn't matter. We'll keep going with the Empire." Like, as long as he's just got to say like 2 lines, and it's like unreal.
It's not like he's going to be in a scene with someone else. Like, he's going to be on that podium. They'll just go to his house and film him on a green screen and then put him in.
Sure.
Have his face covered because he's Palpatine and he's got his hood on. Like, seems pretty simple to me. So getting back to Gorman, looks like Cassian is living it up and
Nice.
he's got his nice he's got his shades on. He's in
No, wait, those aren't
disguise.
shades. He's weed whacking.
What?
Those are like protective goggles when you're doing landscaping.
Well, what's
They kind of are. I kind of get what you mean. He's doing
what's
like construction work.
protective
I kinda get
in
that.
our galaxy is perhaps fashion in another galaxy.
Maybe.
It is definitely. It looks like the same stuff he's wearing in the shot where he kind of turns around and he's like smiling, like real
Yeah.
smooth.
He's got his
so I'm
fancy
thinking maybe
pants clothes on.
maybe he dresses up and he goes to a party. Maybe Gorman, and maybe that's when thing goes down. I don't know. It feels like we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff on this planet, and it's gonna lead up to the happening, the big thing that the Empire does. Tarkin lands his shuttle on a bunch of protesters because that's how it happened in the EU. So maybe they'll do it again in this thing.
Why can I hear that? I shouldn't be able to hear the sound of that happening. I can.
Oh boy,
this is how
Yeah,
disturbed now.
And then so interestingly enough, we get a new shot of some Imperials. Can anybody say when Orson met Dedra? We get
Now
these two
kids. Now kids.
Forget Serial Boy. He was weird and creepy to you.
No, this
Go
is
for
a power couple.
Go for an older man, Deidre. Go for it.
there is a 120% chance that Krennic is the reason Dedra is not in Rogue One. There's 100 that he is going to knock her off. She's going to die a gruesome death, and he's going to be the reason for it. And then we're going to cheer even more when we get to Rogue One, and he gets a Death Star laser to the face.
Oh, yeah, I've been down for that. I'm in a very strange mood tonight. So for some reason now I'm mad that the Dooku Ahsoka scene never happened that we talked about. So this would make up for that.
Dooku Ahsoka scene. What am I missing something?
I don't know if you were here. There was a week on the show where I described my theory that Dooku was going to murder Ahsoka.
Oh,
and it didn't happen. And I'm glad it didn't happen, but I am slightly morbidly curious how that would play out. And so now I feel like this would be the same situation, but actually it happens.
It is, not to go on too big of a tangent, but it is like really weird that Dooku and Ahsoka had so much in common, both with characters that they associated with, were trained by, and also both leaving the Jedi Order, and they never crossed paths. They never I think they would have had a nice chat. That's all I'm saying. I don't think they had to murder each other. I think they would have had a lot to agree on. A lot to disagree on, maybe, but a lot to agree on.
Well, hopefully this is just a nice chat we're looking at right now between these two.
Right. I'm curious, where are they? I can't really. There's like some shapes outside the window. I don't know where.
They're the mountains.
Wait,
are they on Tantus? Does Tantus exist at this point?
Ooh. I mean, or it could be.
I would love that for a tie-in. That would be amazing.
That looks
it could be Tantus, or it could be Iriadu. Could be Tarkin's base that gets blown up by the Bad Batch. Because this would be after that. This would be well after that, I think. But who knows? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. I'm curious. Very, very interesting. What else? Oh, I did want to bring this up. We got two tubes. We got both tubes. We got both two tubes. I think Edrio and his brother. We got 4 tubes here, and another shot of this. This has to be Dakar, right? Has to be.
Looks like it.
I mean, the mountains and everything.
Yeah. I think we're going there.
They're gonna be like, no, it's Kadar. It's actually the planet Kadar.
No.
Yeah, they'll absolutely pull that. That's so true, actually.
Stop doing that.
That's so
Give me
good.
ideas. Good Lord. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what Saw's doing, because we did get some behind the scenes shots of Forrest Whitaker in his Saw Gerrera get up. We see that we're going to see different stages of Saw. And I saw some comparison photos from the trailer, like that, the shot in the trailer of Saw Gerrera and the shot of Saw Gerrera, like basically in the window about to die, exactly the same. Like we're basically probably going to see Jedha in this show, which is pretty interesting, pretty darn cool. I don't know. I think we covered a lot. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up from this little teaser thingy?
I mean, I think Andor's looking so fly. I hope that one of these arcs is about him running like a fashion house, and like the episode title is House of Andor. Like that would be really nice.
I like that. I think, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting where this all goes. And yes, it'll be just 4 weeks of greatness. But it'll be pretty darn 4 weeks.
Just 30 days of perpetual bliss.
I petition. I'm putting this on the floor right now. This is becoming a Star Wars Underworld production meeting right now because I'm putting this out there. I think regardless of the schedule, I think we should still spend 12 weeks talking about Andor, even when the show's not off there. I think we should just keep going because we were robbed of the time to talk about it.
Well, we could just do a podcast every day.
I mean,
how? How that would work? That doesn't make any. That makes it more complex.
I mean, look, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I just have to quit my job and live in my car.
Okay, guys,
and I'm good with that.
I'm tell you right now, if you send 1,000 super chats, we can do this. Thank you in advance.
Support us. Give us money so we can do this all the time. Yay!
I would definitely do this every night if we had 1,000 super chats. Thank you in advance.
Oh yeah. But the guys, even I can admit there's better ways to spend your money. Okay.
This is true. Only do this if you have disposable income. I'm looking at you, Elon. I know you watch the show. It's
of course. Yeah. Unless if it is Elon, hey, you got plenty of you got enough to keep us going in your couch. You can find that in your couch. No big deal.
I mentioned that to JD.
Yep.
Oh, good Lord. Let's not get started on that. Let's not. Keep on going. So yeah. Andor, a Star Wars story, season 2, 47 days away, or 1 month, 15 days, 22 hours, 45 minutes, and 36 seconds. For the record, just in things. It'll even be sooner in the future if you're listening to this or watching this in the future. It'll be even less time. Be here before you know it. But we'll be even sooner here, or should I say, on the other side of the world from where I'm standing. Star Wars Celebration Japan coming to Tokyo in 43 days.
Wow.
So not far away, and we got some interesting topics in regards to the panels of Star Wars Celebration Japan. They released the panel reservation info, so I think that's either live or soon to be live. I don't know. I'm not going, so I haven't really been paying attention. I'm sorry. But I know that stuff's out there, and we got a confirmation of the big panels that will be in the reservation in the lottery system this time around, and they are as follows. Friday, The Mandalorian and Grogu. Saturday, Andor, a Star Wars story. Saturday, Ahsoka. And Sunday, first look, Star Wars Visions Volume 3.
Nice.
And the first big takeaway from this that a lot of people took from this right off the bat was the obvious omission of a few different things. First of all, no Lucasfilm showcase panel, no movie studio panel, anything like that. The first panel I'm assuming it'll be in the morning that Friday, is The Mandalorian and Grogu. And that's it. So I don't know. Does that mean that they're just going to be focused on The Mandalorian and Grogu? That there won't be any discussion of anything else? The Sean Levy movie? Dave Filoni's movie, anything like that. I don't know.
Hmm.
But what do we think about this, Chris?
That is really wild, but I'm not surprised. I feel like celebrations, every time there is one, there's less things that are announced about stuff like that. So I'm not as surprised as I would have been like 10 years ago. But yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate. I just hope that they do something off schedule, that they put something into a panel that hasn't been announced, that's like really, pleasantly surprises people in a fun way. That would be cool.
Yeah, like and it is interesting that it's not just the movies. It's Andor and Ahsoka are both getting individual panels, but no other TV shows. And then we have obviously Visions. That makes sense. You're in Japan. You have a Star Wars anime show. Give it like the big panel treatment. Like that's a given. But everything else, it is kind of odd. But maybe it's just they're doing this overseas. They're in a different market than they usually are, and we're all assuming that there will be a celebration perhaps next year, perhaps back in the States. Maybe that's when they're saving all the stuff. Maybe they're just not ready to announce anything yet. That could also be the case. But Hannah, what do you make of all this?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty hopeful, which is a dangerous game to play because I might be there and be very disappointed. But I'm pretty hopeful that a lot of things are just under wraps for now. I think if you notice on the actual website, a lot of people talking about this is that there's a blank bullet point on the list of panels going to be there.
Oh,
have you noticed that? Have you seen that? But there's this blank space, but there's definitely there's just a bullet point and nothing next to it.
But that's for
that
Taylor
could be a
Swift's
glitch.
That's for Taylor Swift's next boyfriend, though.
What, dude? What?
It's a blank space.
Oh, blank space, baby! Oh my god, I just got it.
I get it. I
was like, what is that connection? That makes sense. Yeah, okay, good one. I like that. But that could be a glitch, but also that's a very specific, in a specific way, glitch. So it could be they're just waiting until it's closer to kind of just draw out the hype. I think there's got to be, like, it would be really weird if there wasn't a Bad Batch look back panel, and it would be really weird if they don't have some sort of Skeleton Crew season 1 series panel. Yeah. So I think they're just maybe spreading out the kind of just announcements of it all, honestly. So like previous celebrations, they've done a similar thing where they're like further out, it was confirmed that like these big panels will be there, but then a few weeks, just a few weeks out from it, they announce a bit more and there's actual schedule. So I don't know, I'm pretty happy that like this is not like the end of the world and being like, oh, there's nothing else happening. It's like, no, I think there's going to be a lot more happening at this celebration. So yeah,
and for people at home, like these are not all the panels. Like these are not the only panels that are happening.
Which I think a lot of people that are
right. Like, but like this is just the panel. These are just the biggest panels that require the panel reservation lottery system thing that they've been doing since they got rid of the overnight lines, because people would line up all night because we're crazy like that. And so like these are would seemingly be the most high in demand panels. Doesn't mean they will be the only panels. Far from it. There will probably be, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of panels every day. And I would imagine we will get like a Skeleton Crew. Like, I don't know if they'll get the whole Skeleton Crew cast over there. Maybe, I don't know if any of them have been confirmed, but like, that would be cool. Have a look back for any of the shows. And we have a lot of the cast of other shows going, so makes sense. They just are not as in high demand. And they'll just be smaller, low-key panels that you can most likely just line up for like normal and should be able to get into with little problem, as long as you get in line pretty early, depending on like how big it is. I imagine if they did a Skeleton Crew panel, that would be pretty big. I imagine that would be like you'd want to get in line for pretty early, because a lot of people like that show.
And to your point, which you point out here, is that they're doing this new how you get into the panel system for this year. Usually it's lottery, but now they're doing this sort of pre sign up and, you know, first in, first, like, best dressed to sign up to a panel per day. So I think the reason that they've announced these 4 specifically is that, yeah, like you said, Ben, like, these 4 are going to be the sign-ups that you have to, like, register for and try and get into. And then I think a Bad Batch, Skeleton Crew, Revenge of the Sith anniversary panel, and Lucasfilm Showcase panel will all be announced, but all of those will be lottery and random. So that's why I think they're not doing it at once, because it would have been hard to be like, oh, and for these, like, one of each day, you, like, it isn't lottery, you got to, like, register. It would be too hard to differentiate it. So that's the other thing that could be happening. I've got no evidence of that plan, man. This is just my own theory of, like, oh, maybe these are the specific sign up style they're doing, and then the other major panels that we would assume that would be there are going to be just the classic lottery.
That makes sense.
You got to be there on the day to get in, kind of thing. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, the ones, a lot of the ones, I mean, it still doesn't answer the question of what about kind of the ones more about the future, but as far as the ones about the past, for sure.
Yeah, and my kind of reigning theory right now is that possibly we could get some announcements, but, like, say, for example, they do the Mandalorian and Grogu panel, and obviously Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, they'll probably, I would imagine, they'll get Pedro out on stage and they'll be talking about it. And then maybe towards the end of the panel, you know, because some of these panels can run hour and a half, maybe towards the end, they're like, well, we have other stuff happening, because not only, because, like, it would be a tie-in with, like, because, like, Kathleen Kennedy was talking recently about, like, the movies are kind of all heading in one direction. There's the Mandoverse stuff, and then there's the post-sequel stuff. They could very easily go like, well, here's what's coming up after the Mandalorian and Grogu, and we're going to talk about Filoni's movie, and then we're going to talk about Sean Levy's movie. We're going to just, like, 5 minutes, give a title, give whatever, give a release date, something. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just, like, hey, Mandalorian and Grogu, hey, Japan, we're releasing a movie. We Disney would really like the Asian market, so we want you to watch this movie more.
Do you know what they might also do is they might also have a lot of that stuff in the live stream rather than the panels, and just have it on the stage, on the floor stage. Because especially, like, if they say have to have people call in because they're not in Japan and can't get to Japan because of what they're working on, they don't have the time to take a few days out to travel and back. Perhaps they're like, well, it kind of would be disappointing to have all these panels that are just like, you know, a Zoom call with, like, you know, this creator or that creator. So, but it makes more sense to have it be a Zoom call if you're just on a live stream and it's just a few people watching on the show floor. So maybe they'll just have a bunch of those announcements and we'll still get all that information, but it'll just be in a slightly different format. It'll be in a format for the live stream, because Celebration is just as much about the live stream as it is about the people who go to it, and using that as a marketing tool and a hype tool to get everybody who's not at the convention interested and hyped up to all the things they're talking about. And then also having that being an additional experience for people to have that's a little bit less high stress of, like, lottery sign-up systems on the show floor, where it's just like, yeah, you're walking by as they're, you know, doing a Zoom call with, you know, Dave Filoni to talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu or something like that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Celebration has always had the I think it's not, I don't know what exactly they call it, but it's the stage in the middle of the convention.
Yes, that's.
And I've heard a lot of conventions recently have been doing these things where maybe something like that. But, like, and I've heard other conventions that don't even have a panel room for their big panels. They just do it right on the show floor.
That's what I think Comic-Con does.
I think that's what I heard LA Comic-Con. So, like, and that makes a lot of sense. And you never know. I think Celebration has always kind of excelled at really making that entertaining. And, like, I think that's what makes Celebration go so great, is that there's always something to do. And always when they're having the big panels and you're, like, sitting on the show floor going, darn, I missed the panel, or I didn't get the lottery in the panel, you can go over to that things, and guess what? Everyone that was on the big panel is going to come over to that stage, and they're going to walk out, and they're going to talk to people, and they're going to all be interviewed. So, you know, and that's really something. And as long as you're in the room and you can get up there at a decent time, you can get a really good spot and get very close to people, even closer than you would be in the panel room.
Yep.
So utilizing that more, assuming they had the same setup, could be interesting. I think maybe they could even show some stuff, maybe show some exclusive stuff, like you said, on the live stream. Because this is going to be a very watched live stream. Very, very, very watched live stream. They're going to get a lot of views from this thing because a lot of people like me who really wanted to go, but just couldn't make it happen, which is a lot of people, especially now. Yeah, so I wouldn't put it past them to do something special like that. But we'll find out in literally a month. Like it's crazy how fast time is flying, and it's here. It was like a year away, and now all of a sudden, oh, by the way, next month, no big deal. But another person, I think we found out about this recently, our good friend Vanessa Marshall, who was recently confirmed as I think she's going to Japan. She had an announcement to make. And this is weird news. This is news in Star Wars podcasting news. We don't have this very much. But this is really exciting. This is something that it's weird it's taken this long to get this. So Vanessa Marshall, Tia Sircar, and Taylor Gray have announced they will be launching a Star Wars Rebels rewatch podcast titled Pod of Rebellion. This launches March 11th. And I mean, as the story implies, they'll be rewatching, I guess, the entire 4 seasons of Star Wars Rebels and talking about it. This is obviously long line of rewatch podcasts. There was one for The Office. There's one for Parks and Rec. So many shows have gotten it. It's weird it's taken Star Wars this long. Like, we've had several things. So I think Rebels is a prime subject for this, and I really cannot wait for this.
That's super cool. That is super cool. Yeah, I've never. I think I might have listened to the first episode of The Office Girls, but like I hear it's an amazing podcast. And if I did have time to listen to every podcast, that would be towards the top of the list. So it's cool they're doing something like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that one because that I was going to mention that, being like, oh, this is just like the Office Ladies podcast, which I'm a big fan of. It's just so great, really immersive to just hear the actual actresses and, in this instance, voice actors like behind everything, like talk about it. It's gonna be so cool. And I'm praying to God Freddie Prinze is gonna come. I know he has like a love-hate relationship with Star Wars at this point, but I'm like, praying to God they can
can you
focus
imagine?
him on. It'll be so good. It'll be so interesting.
That man serves nothing but juicy tea on podcasts. Oh man, that would be wild.
Like, I would love it. So yeah, I'm so excited for this. It makes me think that Ashley Eckstein, Matt Lanter, and JT would do an awesome podcast. And Sam Witwer.
Where is that
Imagine
podcast?
those four. Where's
that rewatch?
With the amount of conventions that they do together now, they could be in the same room for almost all the episodes. They could just do it at
literally.
their
They could just
Airbnb.
do
Yeah,
it
like
all
those three have basically been inseparable since the show ended.
Yeah.
So like since the show ended, like the first time, not the other 2 times that it ended. Like, so like it's kind of crazy that there hasn't been a Clone Wars, and like come on, 7 seasons of shows, like that's a long podcast. Like, do that. And I mean, obviously most of the Clone Wars cast, in fact, all of them were on Rebels. So I think there's room to say that they'll probably be guesting on that. I think they already announced in the announcement video that Pod of Rebellion will have a lot of Rebels guests on. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm genuinely like, I already have too many Star Wars podcasts in my rotation, but this is a must. I think it's always cool to get, not just get the actors' takes, but also get like their unfiltered stuff, because people say stuff on podcasts that they wouldn't normally say sometimes. They sometimes get off the hook, and should be interesting. So yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. And look, there's not much else to talk about tonight, but so let's let's jump into some questions. Let's get a couple of questions out of the way. I know you guys have been waiting very patiently, and we do have a super chat. We have this guy named. Does anybody know this guy? Joel Davis? I don't know this guy.
I thought you were about to talk about a town in New York that's the fastest growing community in the United States called Joel.
That too. So Joel Davis, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. They say, I for one am looking forward to the faster pace. I don't think I enjoy season 5 of season 1 paced shows. So myself, I think he's talking about Andor. So faster pace in release order and faster pace just in the amount of years they're going to cover. Joel's all for it. We'll see. I am weirdly not concerned about the pace of the thing. I think 5 years. I think is actually going to really. I think that's going to do the show benefit, honestly, of just going through them.
I don't want to hype it too much and be disappointed. I have to have something to be worried about so I can feel that cathartic feeling of the worry going away, because like I could so easily be processing all of this footage that they're showing and all the things that the actors are saying about it, and I could very easily be saying like this could be the best Star Wars thing ever released. So I'm not going to do that, because you cannot set something up to fail by expecting it to be the best thing you've ever seen. So I'm worried about it. Air quotes.
True. Yeah, it's good to have tempered expectations. Okay, so we got a few from the Discord. We'll try to run through these really quick. We got Gilster10. I'm sorry, I always screw up your name. There's a lot of I's and L's next to each other. It really messes with my brain. Gilster10 says, after almost 50 years of Star Wars media, I'm surprised no one invented a way to trace a hologram call to the source. I know Lux had a device to trace Dooku's hologram in A Friend in Need, but nothing was ever elaborated on it. It's like the police intercepting a phone call from a mobster and raiding the place 2 hours later. So yeah, I guess it's just an observation, less of a question. Just the fact that we got hyperspace tracking, but no hologram tracking. But it's never really like, I don't know. It is interesting. That Lux Bonteri just randomly has this technology and is never spoken about again. Interesting.
Yeah, I just want to know more about how those work. I mean, I think holograms go through hyperspace. They have to, because how else are you going to get a real-time connection? So the actual like technical side of it is really interesting to me. So if you imagine that you're sending a signal through like beacons through hyperspace, then you then have to imagine about, well, how would you go about tracking that and figuring out, where the signal is coming from, especially if someone doesn't want you to know about it. But at the same time, with the hyperspace tracking, something's physically moving when you're when a ship is traveling through hyperspace. It's kind of hard to fully disappear when you exist. And whereas if you're making just a call and you're just on a call, there are a lot of things that you can do to obscure that call from, knowing kind of where it's coming through by like routing it through different things and such. So in a lot of ways, I think it would be a lot easier to hide your location when you're calling than hide your location when you're actually moving.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And also, even though it's not technically supposed to be that way, holograms and hyperspace, all this stuff, it's space magic, man. It's like, it's magic. It works and it does what it needs to do. And sometimes it doesn't work. It's like, okay, how do holograms work? How can they send a transmission here, but they just, for some reason, the transmission's been jammed. We don't know what happened. We can't send a message because blah, blah, blah. That's the way it always is with these things. So,
I don't think, okay. So I don't know why this is the like Get Triggered by Ben podcast, but like, okay. So, in order for our reality to actually work, the passing of time and the passing of space has to be a real thing that exists as a field. And that field,
Oh my word.
that field can be
Oh,
moved around.
brother.
So
Oh.
it is not magic. It is not magic. They're just moving around the field that is the quantum field of space-time, or the quantum space-time, which made up of individual particles of space-time that exist. Yes. So that's what's going on. That is it. It is a wormhole. It is a wormhole which mathematically has to exist if you run calculations that explain why things happen the way that they do as we observe them. So it is real. It is real. It is not magic. It is real.
It's real, guys.
That's right.
Oh my god.
I have nothing else to add. Nothing else to add to that. Let's go to our good friend Vlad Sander, who has this question. Gonna drop this question. We know that the Rey trilogy is set decades after the end of Return of the Jedi, and the events in Mando and Ahsoka take place in the sequel timeline. So I'm wondering, do our esteemed hosts think we might see an older Ahsoka meet with Rey, or Ezra or Sabine with Rey? I'm going to go out and say that Ahsoka is a character that, as long as Dave Filoni is alive, Ahsoka will be alive forever, and she will meet every character in Star Wars ever.
Let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay, there's only one thing that is good. Yes, I will say this. There's no other good things about this, but there is one thing that is good about the fact that Shakti was killed 27 times. And it is that it keeps us from knowing how old Togrutas can get before they die of natural causes.
Okay.
And as we know with Wookiees and Yoda's unidentified tridactyl species, a lot of characters in Star Wars can live far longer than a human can live before dying of natural causes. So it's very possible that a Togruta can live 200 years or 300 years or 900 years. And because we don't know, because Shakti died at a very, very young age. So that's the only good thing about that horrible situation where just every single person who wrote a story about Shakti had to have it be a story about how she died. But we now Ahsoka can live forever because we don't.
That's
have
true.
a
That's true.
Because Shakti never died of being old.
And if you remember in Tales of the Jedi, I forget if I blanked if you mentioned this, Chris. Tales of the Jedi, there was like the old granny Togruta as well.
Oh yeah.
I
didn't mention
that.
that.
She could have been a couple hundred years old there. Like, come on, yeah.
And she also didn't die of natural causes, so we don't know how long she lived for. Would have lived for.
Yeah. Boom. There you go.
I mean, apparently, Saurians, Kia Mundi species, you can live for hundreds of years, so no biggie there.
So I think definitely we could see Ahsoka meet Rey, or vice versa, Rey meet Ahsoka. I think that could definitely be a thing. That'd be cool. I'd be down for that. Jason Syndulla meeting Rey, maybe. Oh, there you go.
I mean, definitely the younger characters like Ezra and Sabine. Like, they'll be around. They'll be a lot older, but they'll be around. Grogu will definitely be around. Jason will definitely be around. Like, you're having a lot of these characters that I think, given time, no doubt in my mind, they will be showing up. They will be part of, like, I'm expecting, like, the new Jedi Order, Jedi Council will be like Rey and Grogu and like 100-year-old Ahsoka and like maybe Ezra and like maybe like 80-year-old Cal Kestis, because he'll be around too.
Yes. Hannah, before your computer dies, do you want to do like an outro that is not sudden and abrupt?
Yes, I was getting more and more startled by that time. Yes, I hilariously need to go. It's literally down to 2% now, so I'll bid my farewell. Unreal discussion. Very excited for Andor. Who would have thought 3 years ago I would have been saying that? But yeah, it's another week, 1 week closer to celebration. Woo! Let's get it.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on. Make sure you follow the Raeside at the Raeside, Raeside.
Oh, good stuff. All right, gang. I'll catch you in the next one, and have a good one. I'll watch from my phone. I'll comment from my phone. All right, bye now.
Bye.
Naturally.
I hope that everybody on the live stream saw the glitch that we saw, where she literally actually did disappear for 2 seconds and then reappear.
Yeah, I was concerned for like a half second. I was like, oh, is it dying? Like, is it gonna die now that
so
she's like doing her
funny.
outro? Oh, that's
But it's
good.
like it wasn't
That's
like
good.
a thing where like her, and I'm describing it for I guess people who are listening on audio, and then if for some reason it didn't actually go to the live stream, but like it wasn't like, you know, her entire picture disappeared like if her computer died. Her body just disappeared. The background was still there. Like it physically disappeared. It was really trippy.
Which is so trippy because it wasn't just like a blue background. It was her normal background. So it's like you're turning into a ghost and like disappearing in front of her normal
She became
setup
one with the
in her normal
force and
studio.
then came back.
Just wild stuff.
Oh my god.
Okay, let's do one more question. We got one from Joel, and I think even though we've already answered one from Joel, we'll get another one because he's always got one in the chamber. Bonus question. We started with Joel. We'll wrap with Joel. And he says, "Hey, Underworld, with the rumor mill heating up about Kathleen Kennedy retiring again, I have a simple question. Does anything at Lucasfilm fundamentally change, especially if they choose someone internally like Filoni and Beck as co-presidents? These are people who have been with her implementing decisions and shaping the company's direction every step of the way, from greenlighting Andor to canceling The Acolyte. The one way I see a fundamental change happening is if Disney selects an outsider to take charge and overhauls the company from the top to bottom. That could be really good or really bad. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the matter. What do you think?" Chris, I'm not sure we've actually gotten much of your thoughts on the whole Kathleen Kennedy potentially retiring and getting replaced by who knows who drama. Any thoughts?
Okay, so all of my thoughts, unfortunately, depend on hearsay. So it gets stricken off the record, like, because I'm gonna just ask you, so I don't need to do a bunch of Googling if you know what's going on with this. So what's up with the like Tiana Splash Mountain story? Is that a rumor? Is that real?
I am not a Disney adult per se.
What?
But I do know a lot of Disney adults.
Yeah.
And I do keep up somewhat with Disney Parks news. All I know is like was it Splash Mountain was kind of based on a racist thing, and so they decided, okay, we're gonna get rid of Splash Mountain, we're gonna replace it with Tiana, which they're doing a lot. I think people are like getting mad at the situation because it's seemingly a political thing, but I think it's more to do with the fact that Disney just is increasingly trying to make a lot of their parks rides just themed after one of their properties versus just something random. So that's where Tiana's Bayou Adventure came from. Are you talking about that? Or are you talking about something else?
Yeah, I'm talking about that. So I for some reason I felt like I heard somewhere that they decided to reverse that.
Well, okay, so I think you may be talking about, because there was news that came out a couple of days ago there was a Tiana TV show that was happening, and that I believe got canceled, postponed, something that said they were like pulling back on it, but then they were gonna do something else. I don't know what's going on there. Obviously, a lot of Disney Plus stuff, Star Wars or otherwise, has been in flux, and sometimes they just announce stuff and then it just doesn't happen, or they cancel it or whatever else, or things get turned into movies, as is like Moana 2 was going to be a TV series, but it ended up being Moana 2. So so I'm not super up to date on all of that, but I do read headlines and I kind of keep up with it from that. But yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it.
Yeah. Okay, because basically, like, I feel like, okay, so maybe I'm getting the piece of it from the wrong piece, because like I'm having to do Googling here because it's difficult, because I want to talk about this with authority and not spread rumors and say stuff that's hearsay, because unfortunately, I don't have time to research every single thing, but sadly I get exposed to it because of the internet being so information overload. So I've been hearing these rumors for weeks about Disney and like decisions they're making. But I'm just, again, they're rumors. They're things that people are reposting. I don't know if it's fake news or not. And so apparently there's like a quote from Bob Iger talking about the company's primary goal is entertainment, not activism. And that's kind of a thing. And so this the reason why I bring this up and how this relates to Star Wars and how this relates to Kathleen Kennedy is we know a lot of the fights about Kathleen Kennedy have been over whether or not her choices that she's either made or overseen and approved at Lucasfilm have been activist choices, and whether or not, if they are activist choices, if it's bad or good that she's making activist choices. And that would be the main thing about it when you're talking about are things going to change? That would be, I think, the first thing I would look at is because I think that's one of the big impacts that she's had is overseeing that. And the reason why I'm kind of, I don't know, concerned, maybe concerned is the right word, is if Bob Iger is saying things like we're entertainment, not activism, it brings into question, was it out of the genuine moral compass and ethical philosophy that Kathleen Kennedy was making the choices that she was making? Or was it just, this is the zeitgeist, this is the spirit of the times, this is what all the cool kids are doing, this is what I want to do to fit in, this is what I want to do to make money? Because that then brings up, like, well, what's going to go on with the future of the company and the future of decisions and the differences after she leaves? Because if she didn't genuinely believe in the things that she was doing and she was just doing them to fit in, and now the whole company is just reversing course on that because now the spirit of the times is changing, I wonder what's going to happen in the future. Does it mean that Star Wars no longer has a moral backbone? And then, if she was truly making those decisions because she believed in them and wasn't just doing it because everybody else was doing it at the time, then will she make sure that she's succeeded by someone who will also stand up for those choices? Because we haven't really seen that hit Star Wars yet. We haven't seen anything, to my knowledge, in Star Wars be affected by this whole conversation about the reversing of Disney's stances on this, unless you know something I don't, which could be possible.
Well, yeah, it's a complicated and multifaceted issue, especially when you have a lot happening in the world of politics, especially American politics, with the let's just say current administration, and what they've said and done, and the companies like Disney who have been accused of being quote unquote woke and other things, seemingly just kind of bowing down to the demands of a madman, and doing what they say just to go along, to get along. And it kind of ties into my thoughts on the whole issue, which is like, ultimately, I don't think big companies like Disney and, maybe to a lesser extent Lucasfilm, but any of these big companies actually really care about this stuff all that much. They do. It's, the old rainbow capitalism thing where, yes, they all celebrate Pride Month. They all put rainbow in their thumbnails on their Facebook page. And, they get a bunch of people happy and a bunch of people upset, and they do it every year, but they don't do a whole lot else to actually further that cause. And ultimately, I think they only see it as like, how can we make a little bit more money from this group of people that do that. Not to say that like, mega corporations are evil by default, but yeah, they kind of are sometimes, especially certain ones. And Disney's definitely had its fair share of bad things it's done. But it is like, speaking of Lucasfilm, like Lucasfilm is this company that was like, I don't say overtly political, but like George Lucas was someone who put his views on screen in sometimes subtle, sometimes overt ways. He was a liberal. He was a left-wing person that had things that had a lot of views about a lot of different things he was very open about and very talked a lot about. He wasn't shy about it. And I think Kathleen Kennedy is someone that's cut from the same cloth. Maybe took a step back from that. Like, I don't know what Kathleen Kennedy's political views are. I don't think he's ever talked about it. I can guess, but I don't think I know. But with Star Wars kind of continuing the same thing and getting kind of vanilla Star Wars in a political sense, and then getting stuff that like Andor that's very political, very politically charged, very much in the George Lucas school of thought of, this is what we're talking about here. We're talking about some real stuff. This ain't just space magic anymore. I am, because like, even if you're not a fan of Kathleen Kennedy, which I think if you're doing it from a completely non-toxic perspective of just like, maybe you just haven't liked new Star Wars stuff in a while, if you want somebody new in charge, that's totally fair. But you also have to consider that it can always get worse. It can always, if you don't like Kathleen Kennedy for a variety of reasons, I think you should give her a credit for the stuff you do like, not just for the stuff you don't like. But ultimately, they can always, as Joel kind of points out, they could, grab somebody like Carrie Beck or Dave Filoni, put those two together, pick Jon Favreau. There's no chance, there's no snowball's chance in hell it's happening, but they could get freaking Kevin Feige to do it. But they could also get some no-name person from outside the company that we've never heard of that to come in and do the just do the corporate thing, do the corporate CEO thing. Pull a David Zaslav from Warner Brothers. Everybody loves that guy. He's just a corporate stooge, and he just makes dumb decisions and is the mouthpiece for the company and doesn't seem to have a personality beyond that. And a lot of people hate him for it. So, like, we could have someone like that. I think Kathleen Kennedy, for her faults, is still someone who has a backbone and has a lot of thought behind it, and is someone with moral integrity, and is someone who understands Star Wars on a deeper level, I think. And like George did. Going forward, who will that be? Obviously, I think Dave Filoni is in that same camp, being that he trained under George. But, that's not to say that people in Lucasfilm, they don't think differently, that might think contrary to George's vision, that may, change things and do things differently. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, based on everything that Kathleen Kennedy has done and said, I think that she wasn't just, what would be the word, like assimilating, or like she wasn't just, copycatting people. Like, I think she actually believed what she was doing was the right thing to do and is the right thing to do as she continues. And that's obviously, I think, the best case scenario here, because again, we know she's probably going to have a lot of say into who's going to replace her. And hopefully she'll pick someone that has that same level of integrity, and there'll be continuity there in that part of the company. And that's, I guess, more important than ever now that it looks like the CEO over that and the board and the investors over that seem to be, taking less of a hard stance on things now. That because I mean, look at Disney versus Florida. Like, Disney took a hard stance against Florida, and
Right.
they're clearly not treating the U.S. government the same way that they treated Florida in this situation. And so the thing is, Bob Iger is he's an owner of Disney. He's one of the people who owns Disney. It's not a huge piece of it, but he owns a bit of it. more than your average shareholder. He owns millions and millions of dollars of stock in Disney, and so he has possibly a more vested interest financially in the company that someone like Kathleen Kennedy has, because I am sure that he owns more of Disney than she does, if she owns any of it. And so, for her, I think she cares more about the legacy of what they're doing, whereas I think he cares more about the bottom line and how much money he retires with, and has to live with at the moment. So I think he's more of the bad side of the executive position of, corporate shell, and
right.
Like you were saying about the WB person, just a mouthpiece of what the investors want, and it's all about the bottom line of money. And I think she's more about, the let's actually make good stuff. Let's do good. Let's be good. And that's great. And so it makes me concerned about Disney as a whole. Makes me very concerned about Bob Iger as a whole. But the other thing too that I really like about, and the reason why I think you're very much right about her actually having a backbone, is I keep thinking back to that controversial moment, that really controversial moment that was hopefully a lot of people have forgotten about now, but was definitely talked a lot about when it happened, where a reporter at a Q&A asked Kathleen Kennedy, when are we going to have a female director for a Star Wars film? And she said, when somebody has the experience needed to direct a Star Wars film who's a female, we will hire them. Basically implying that there's no one up to the task at this moment, but there may be in the future. And what's interesting about that is Disney, in a sense, you might be able to tell I think the word I'm looking for is the performative people. When I was talking about assimilation earlier, I think what I meant to say is the performative people, the people who are just saying the right things to say it and they don't really believe it. Perhaps Disney as a company was being performative and Bob Iger was being performative. And perhaps you can tell a performative person from someone who isn't by the fact that they actually do consider, what's the word that Bob Iger used, entertainment, but basically like a focus on like a meritocracy. And I think, what am I trying to say here? Let me collect my thoughts so I don't run off the rails and this makes sense to people and not just myself. I think if you're parroting wokeness, if you're performing wokeness, but you're not actually woke, you might be tempted to play the caricature of it that isn't the real version of it, and actually say, when asked, when is there going to be a female director of a Star Wars film, you might say something like, oh, we're as soon as possible, like probably the next one, like we want that to happen. That might be actually a way to tell that someone doesn't believe it when they say it. I think the fact that she said, when someone's qualified, we'll do it, I think that actually suggests that she has the genuine wokeness that is actually good and is not just parroting it, and knows that, yes, it's really important that there are female directors of Star Wars films, but also that it accomplishes nothing to throw someone in that's not ready. And so I think that that's a good thing that she answered it that way.
And it's funny, like that's the whole thing with, I want to say, I don't want to get political, but let's just go into it. I'm just going to say it. Okay.
After
the whole,
90 minutes into the podcast, you get full politics.
It's
Everybody's
SWU after dark. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go. The whole DEI thing, the whole like thing of, they pretend that it's the opposite of what it actually is. And they're like, oh, well, you're hiring women and minorities based on who they are and not their merit. And therefore there's people that are getting these jobs that don't deserve them. And like, they want to apply that to like still a majority of Star Wars directors and even Star Wars writers are still white straight dudes. And they still are. If Kathleen Kennedy was all about the DEI and just giving people jobs because of who they are and not because they're qualified for the job, why haven't all the Star Wars films, like we still haven't got a Star Wars film directed by a woman? Why hasn't that happened yet? Kathleen Kennedy's been in charge for 13 years. Why hasn't that happened yet? Somebody answered me that. Seriously, it's not a rhetorical question. Like, why isn't it happening? Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that Kathleen Kennedy's doing all this because she's blah, blah, woke, DEI, do you use all your buzzwords in there? But then simultaneously, there's nothing to show for it. And there's someone in our chat right now. I'm not going to highlight them. I'm not going to talk about them, but they're talking about how Kathleen Kennedy is clearly driven with political and social activism. I'm like, what? I don't see it. I don't see it. I get that you might have the idea that she has political views and that influences her thing. It also did George Lucas, but I don't see it as overtly as George did. And getting back to your original point, it kind of dawned on me while you're talking, the idea of picking someone else to run Lucasfilm. If the shareholders have a say in that, or they have influence over that, guess who the biggest Disney shareholder is right now, and who might have a say in that? George Walton Lucas.
Yes,
he absolutely. And there was that recent thing. I think they were trying to get Ike Perlmutter off the thing or something. And like, he wrote a letter and to the board and like was talking about this, and George Lucas came out and kind of put his thumb on the scale in regards to this. I could see that happening again. I think George could easily come out of retirement for a hot minute and go, you know what, I have some thoughts on who should be the leader of Lucasfilm. And maybe he would be the one to say, I want Filoni, I want this, I don't know. But it's entirely possible.
Yeah. I think so. Since you mentioned it, okay. So the thing that people, first of all, shame on you, Bob Iger, because you made it sound like activism was a bad thing, and that the focus needs to be something else. And Kathleen Kennedy shows you how you can be an activist and not have it take away from your mission. You should be able to be both. It's not an either or. It's not like you have to choose one like situation. You can both be a business person making good stuff, using qualified people to make that stuff, and be an activist at the same time. And people think that it's mutually exclusive. And Bob Iger's talking about it like it's mutually exclusive. Kathleen Kennedy, in her actions and words, shows that it's not mutually exclusive. Because clearly she's not letting the business be compromised by her activism. Because if she did, like you said, Ben, then we would have had a female Star Wars director already, and we probably would have had some subpar movies because people might have been hired just because they were women. Yeah. But so she shows you that you can be an activist and still run a business at the same time. Why? Why can you do that? It's because you can both hire qualified people and also make sure that you're hiring people that are minorities at the same time. You don't have to choose between hit the qualified button or hit the minority button. You can do both. And the reason why is because it's not like you have 10 people and this person is 0% qualified, this person is 10%, 20%, 30%, someone's 90% qualified, someone's 100% qualified. And it just so happens that, a few of those people are minority and most of those people aren't. And so in that random assortment, probably a lot of the people who are minority aren't going to be the top percentage point. So it's not like you're forced if you're saying, oh, I definitely want to hire someone who's a minority voice in this. So we have that to appeal and connect to that audience and get that story out there and give that person an opportunity to make our company more diverse and our project and what we're making more diverse. It's not like you have to say to the person who's 100% or 90% qualified, oh, we're replacing you with someone who's 30% qualified because we just have a quota for, how much diversity we need in the project. Like, that's not how it works. How it works is you have a bunch of people who are 100% qualified. They're all going to do a good job. And then you have a choice. If you have 10 people and they're all 100% qualified and you can only hire 2 of them, and it so happens that 9 of them are men and 1 of them is a woman, you're probably better off hiring a 100% qualified woman and a 100% qualified man than 2 100% qualified men, because you not only get 2 100% qualified people, but you have 2 people who have diversity in their outlooks and in their ability to connect, and because of having different backgrounds or being of a different gender or race or sexuality. And so that's why diversity makes things stronger if you're doing it correctly and if you understand it correctly. The reason why Kathleen Kennedy did not succeed in putting out a movie directed by a Star Wars movie directed by a woman is because she never had a 100% qualified woman. She was correctly choosing between the field of 100% qualified people. And that's what most companies do. And so in that situation, DEI and diversity hiring is not a problem. It doesn't affect the product at all. And if you say that it affects the product, well, that means that it's important to you that the product is made by someone of a certain type. And that's racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia. And you are actually discriminating because you're saying, I don't care. I have 2 sandwiches. They're both equally good, but I want this one made by this type of person. That's wrong. That's discrimination. It's not like and then you're also implying that the quality of someone's work is dependent on, them being of a certain type. And that's not the case. The quality is dependent. A group project is dependent on having the work done by a diverse group of people. But individually, it's not like one does a better job because they are a woman or a man or this race or that sexuality, etc. And so Bob Iger, in saying what he said, was implying that you had to do either or. And was implying that if you have a diverse workforce and you have activism in that workforce to make your stories more diverse, to make your creators more diverse, because activism is just doing anything to change what the status quo is. That's what activism is. It's not a bad thing. You just don't like it because it's activism that goes against what you want to do. You have your own version of activism. Just like canceling, same thing. That's how that works, But Bob Iger is suggesting that they're mutually exclusive, and that's wrong. He doesn't understand it correctly, which means he's just been parroting it the whole time, which just means that all the directives that came from him and people doing it because he said to do it, and only for that reason, we're just doing it, to be performative, and that's bad. And it also means that there's a correct version of it, and Kathleen Kennedy's been doing the correct version of it, and hopefully the person that replaces her also does the correct version of it and understands that you can both hire qualified people, tell good stories, make good things, and be diverse in the people that you hire and in the choices you make creatively with your content. That's my hope for this.
Yeah. I have about a million thoughts on this. We could do another 2 hours on this topic. Personally, so many things. though the main thing's going through my mind, I'm gonna have to bite my tongue not think. The only thing I will say on this, the only thing, speaking of just CEOs and presidents and stuff like this, is just the general idea that everyone hates them for a variety of reasons, and they kind of make their own bed. And like you have like someone like Bob Iger, who's like, you have left-wing people go like, here's the thing that you should be doing, and he does the thing, and then right-wing people go, you're doing that thing that those people that I don't like wanted you to do. I don't like you now. And someone like Bob Iger, and maybe Bob Iger himself, would be like, oh, wait, I made a mistake. Let me go back on that. And now everybody hates them because the right-wing people still hate them for doing that thing, and they're never going to forgive them. So, and then now left-wing people are not happy, and no one's happy. And it's just, and like I said, I think it goes back to my cynical take on the situation, which is just like, Disney doesn't really care about this stuff. They only really care at the end of the day about making money. And that's what scares me about, the potential of someone taking over Lucasfilm. As what originally Joel brought up, what brought us into this thing in the first place is kind of what Sean in the chat is saying, is just basically the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You can hope for someone to come in and do better than Kathleen Kennedy, but they may not, and could pick somebody worse. So we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, mainly she's a scapegoat for people.
She's a lightning rod, for sure.
A lightning rod and a scapegoat for all the things that people want to hate on that, shouldn't even be hated on. And, it's difficult because it's like, do you hear people saying directors are bad? No. Do you hear people saying stage managers are bad? No. What is the job of a director and the job of a stage manager? To be the one person that is the final authority to say, this is what is going to happen with the project, and to tie it all together with one vision. That is what a CEO does for a company. That should exist. The problem is, if you have a society where companies are the government and you have an executive who has the final say on anything as the head of your society, making all the choices for you in your life, not just a movie you're watching that you can turn off or decide not to watch, then all of a sudden the directors and stage managers of things that need directors and stage managers become tyrants and dictators, and will be treated as such by a society. So the solution, of course, is you don't get rid of the director, you don't get rid of the stage manager, you need them. You can't get rid of the CEO, you need someone directing a company and making the final say on everything, and tying the vision together. But what you need to do is you need to make sure that companies don't become the government controlling your life, which is the situation in most countries right now, especially in Western capitalist countries, and thus making them no better in a lot of ways to countries that overtly have a authoritarian government and just straight up tell you, this person is the king, this person is your dictator, you worship them and do whatever they say. And so hopefully at some point as a society, we can all together work to separate out profit, money making, and companies from government and making decisions about all of our lives that we have little to no control over, that affect people in extreme ways, like whether or not they go bankrupt when they get sick, and more invasive type ways people's lives are affected by government decisions. And so that's the situation that we're in right now. It's a difficult situation, and it's both understandable and valid, but also scary that now, people with a certain title are basically being headhunted and hated for that title. So valid and understandable, but also indicative of the fact that things are not going well with our system and we need to change it. Because that's just how that is. And that's what I have to say about that, in the words of Forrest Gump.
And the only thing I'll add is whoever it is that gets the job next after Kathleen Kennedy. And yes, someone inevitably will come in and take her place eventually, whether it's next year, the year after, the year after. That person is, no matter who they are, is going to get just pummeled. Like from the moment they get into that office. Yeah. Obviously, if they're a woman or they're a person of color, they will get much more hate than, say, someone who looks like me. And that's just a fact. Yeah. But doesn't change the fact that, that even people that look like me get hate. Just ask Ryan Johnson. There's still deleting comments about that guy. So, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I don't envy the next person that takes her place. Truly, I don't. As much as I would love to have some say about Star Wars, I don't want that job. I just don't.
Yeah. And, they will be a continued victim of the delusional worldview that you've decided that Star Wars is bad now because it changed, and thus it has to be bad, even though it's not.
It's not even change, it's perceived change.
Yeah.
Like
that's a good point.
I truly think like the difference between George Lucas Star Wars and Disney Star Wars, which is used, on the internet so much, like isn't that much. If anything, the consistency and quality in Disney Star Wars is better than what it was under George Lucas. If you actually look at it. When we've got more Star Wars, obviously, the ratio has been bigger, but the quality, because, like I said, if you want to doubt the next person that runs Lucasfilm is, going to get hate, just ask George Lucas. Everybody hated him while he was in charge. It wasn't until after he left and everyone was like, revisionist history time. We all love George Lucas, don't we? Wink, wink. No, you didn't. You all hated him. You all wanted him to sell the company and get it. That's why he did it.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right on all that. And, we've gone over that in many rants in the past about what happened in there. So no need to revisit that. Listen to older podcasts. Or remember them if you've already listened to them. But yeah, absolutely wild. So I think that's enough discussion for this week.
I think we covered it all. I think we're good.
Yes. Let me remember how to make the music happen. I found it. Yes.
And with that, we will begin to wrap up this show. There we go.
This show. I know how to say that. I just needed to figure out how to make the music play.
Well, I was trying to stall. I was trying to make it smooth.
What a backfire. Another happy landing, though, despite that type of landing it was. We're happy that we're here now in the outro. Thank you for listening. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Letting you know that there'll be another show, same time, same place, next week. Thanking all of our super chatters. We want to thank Hannah for being on the show earlier. We want to thank the battery in her computer for doing all the heavy lifting and keeping her on without being connected for power for well over an hour. Great job. Follow her at the Raeside. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure, as always. Sorry we got political, guys. We went woke. Sorry. No, sorry, not sorry. No, it's a pleasure always to get into the nitty gritty. And thanks, Joel, for just setting us off. We could have been done with the show like 30 minutes ago, but thanks to your question, we just went off the deep end. We settled a bunch of other stuff, and now we're still here. So thanks for that. No, seriously, thank you. And thanks to everyone for all their other questions. And yeah, thanks Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy for all the great Star Wars and for keeping us fed. Continue, because this would have been a slow news week without that just random ass Andor behind the scenes featurette that we got. So yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll throw something else at our faces. in a few days, and we'll have something else to talk about. We'll just keep the Andor hype train going all the way for the next month-ish.
Heck yeah, I'm so stoked for that. You can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. You can follow me at Seek3PO. Make sure you subscribe on your way out if you're listening or watching. And make sure tomorrow or today, if you're listening to this later, perhaps, you head over to our Discord for the game night over there, where you to choose your own adventure. A bunch of people show up wanting to play a game. It's going to happen. So figure out what game you want to play with everybody over there on the Discord, and make sure you check out all those other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside and Canon Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more. And finally, make sure you follow us on social media, threads at the SWU or Blue Sky, especially Blue Sky, which is the only real social media left. And that's it for Ben and Hannah. My name is Chris. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you. It's a wrap.